Just make 90% of the roster Fire Emblem characters. We're going to do something a little different this time. You see, it has been officially 5 years since the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate... What? I legit almost just threw up. 5 years? Look, as much as I poke fun at this game for its fandom and memes, I'd be lying if I said it didn't have a massive influence in me. I have so many fond memories of when it was first revealed, to seeing each new character, speculating to who's next on the roster, and celebrating for the DLC characters. As many of you know too, this was the game that introduced me to the Persona series. There's so many things I could not thank this game enough for. It really was one of a kind at the time, even today. So, to celebrate its 5-year anniversary, the next logical thing to do is ask what's next. Smash Bros. Ultimate has gotten its last DLC character, Sora, over 2 years ago by this point. With this, a lot of fans, both new and old, have been wondering where else can this series go, and I can't blame them. Ultimate has earned a very well-respected position as one of the best entries in the series. With a roster of over 80 characters, thousands of things to collect, and so many different ways of playing the game. Logically, we're all now wondering where else could this series go? Will it just continue on the foundation of Ultimate? Or will there be a brand new experience moving forward? With Nintendo's next system supposedly releasing in 2024, I want to make my own predictions for what could not only be the next Smash Bros. Game, but also what its future could look like. All I can say now is I hope none of these predictions start a war, because I have some very harsh things to say about this franchise. And with that out of the way, these are our predictions for the next Super Smash Bros. Before we start, I just want to say that if you're enjoying our productions, or if you want to see more stuff like this, or Persona-thon, be sure to press that subscribe button. Anyway, let's get down to business. What stance do I have in the argument? Should Ultimate just be released as a definitive edition for this new system? Or should we strive to make a completely new game? Well, both. And that really depends on how powerful this new Switch, or whatever console this was going to be called, will end up being. Here's the thing. I don't think Nintendo should completely abandon Ultimate. It's a really good game. If they bundled the DLC together and maybe add 5 more characters as an expansion pack of it, I think that's perfectly reasonable. I personally think if Nintendo wants to just take a safer and more successful route, that's the way to go. All they'd have to do is port over the game, maybe spruce up some of the visuals, add the new characters in the span of a year, and you're good to go. Chances of this happening are very high, and probably will happen, at least for this potential console. However, that's safe, not fun. The idea of a brand new Smash game, one that completely reconstructs and does something new, is way more exciting and fun to discuss. This is why I came up with my very own concept for a Smash Bros. Reboot, one where it completely strives to try and be a new step for the franchise. For simplicity, let's call this game Super Smash Bros. Armada. I totally didn't take this idea from someone. First things first, how's this reboot going to work? Well, rather than explaining how I'd like to cut 80% of the characters, I want to give this game a clearer goal. Focus on modern successes. Let me explain. The video game industry has gone a long, and I mean long, way since the 80s. A lot of franchises are more beloved than others, and various new ones have taken the spotlight as pillars to look up to. Hollow Knight, Devil May Cry, Persona, and so many other games are considered as the new classics for newer generations. Personally, if Nintendo still wants to keep the franchise as successful as it's been, they need to learn to adapt into this new era and generation. I'm not saying to entirely ditch characters like Mario, Sonic, and Link. Those still make billions to this day. However, who's really going to be excited that the Ice Climbers are in Smash? I completely understand if this entire train of thought is controversial. A lot of people want to stick to the same well-known franchises. After all, Smash Bros. Is considered a celebration of gaming's history, and that's fine. However, what else can you do with Smash by keeping this mindset? It'll be a nightmare for both players and developers if they just constantly build upon Smash Bros. If you want to continue embracing gaming as an industry and its history, it's also important to consider its future. And that's pretty much the philosophy I want to make clear in this hypothetical game. Focus on the future of gaming. Embrace successes starting from the early 2000s all the way to today. And I mean successes, no fads or one-hit wonders. As for those older characters like Mario, Sonic, Link, I want them to mostly, if not completely, scrap their movesets in favor of more faithful and modern ones, referencing more of their more recent titles. This is a no-brainer. A big issue with the older characters in Ultimate is that these characters, and even some of the younger ones like Sonic, don't exactly have good movesets that reference their games. A hard reset of them will really benefit them in not only being more appealing for audiences, but could fundamentally change the kinds of roles they can play. Imagine Mario's final smash being a gigantic reference to Wonder, where the entire stage and background goes wild and slows down your opponents. This makes it way easier to set up combos or get easier hits on them. And that's just his final smash. Give him references to Mario Galaxy, 3D World, Odyssey, heck, Mario plus Rabbids of all games. Go all out on them, please. Make these characters a true celebration of themselves. That's how it was for the fighters in Smash 4 and Ultimate. Why not do it now with even more source material? Now, you may be wondering, with this new mindset and ideas, what exactly is my ideal roster for Armada? Well, it's quite easy. After a few hours of brainstorming and balancing out these franchises, I created what's, in my opinion, the perfect roster. A quick warning, however, I am not taking any fan request ideas into consideration. I always felt like characters like Waluigi were more of a meme than legitimately wanting him to be playable. Same goes for any characters who you always hear. Smash fans can cry all they want, and I don't care. And expect some bias because yes, Tsubasa Oribe will be in this roster. Now then, to start things off, I will at least keep the original 12 characters from Smash 64. Those being Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, Kirby, Captain Falcon, Ness, Fox, Pikachu, and Jigglypuff. This is self-explanatory. These are essentially the core of the franchise. It'd be a bit overkill and almost a disrespect by removing them. Plus, a lot of these bring in some of the most iconic moments in the series. I still do stand by the fact that some of these do need to have revamped movesets, however, with some exceptions. Looking at you, Captain Falcon. Before we get on to the newcomers, let's name first who's making it back for Armada. Let's see, we have Peach, Bowser, King K. Rool, Zelda, Ganondorf, DDD, Ridley, Zero Suit Samus, Sonic, Snake, Olimar. Oh geez, on to Fire Emblem.
All the Fire Emblem characters!
Pit, Palutena, Villager, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Shulk, Ryu, Cloud, Bayo, Inkling, Joker, Hero, Steve, Simon, Sephiroth, and Pyra/Mithra. I don't think many people will disagree with some of them. We still keep a lot of iconic faces, while leaving out any who either haven't received a game in decades, can be replaced with a character in their more recent entry, or just flat out, we don't see them appearing. Oh, and also characters I just don't want to see for the sake of not wanting to see. Sorry, Sora fans. Alright, newcomers, the moment you've all been waiting for. Who will be the iconic and modern faces we'll be seeing in this new title? Let's lay out some ground rules. Armada will have at least 10 new characters, and for fun, I'll add an expansion pack with 5 new characters. For the base newcomers, we have Dante from Devil May Cry, Alear from Fire Emblem Engage, Bandana Waddle Dee, Dr. Eggman, any Pokemon from the latest game as of writing this, Noah from Xenoblade 3, the SMT5 and Astral Chain protagonists, Pea Shooter from Plants vs. Zombies, and last but not least, Tsubasa Oribe from the best game of all time, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Most of these seem pretty reasonable. I made sure to stick to both recent yet also very recognizable characters like Dante and Dr. Eggman. Sonic fans can finally properly be represented. As for characters like Alear and some other protagonists listed, these all have starred in some of the best-selling and best-received entries in their respective series. Why wouldn't Nintendo add them? And I know, people are tired of seeing Fire Emblem characters, but this is my list, so cry about it! As for characters like Bandana Dee and Pea Shooter, these are meant to be much more fun and silly choices to balance out all the anime characters we see here. Plus, these two could have very fun movesets. Bandana Dee pretty much has a moveset in Kirby Star Allies. You could just translate a lot of that into Smash with not many issues. And Pea Shooter just use Garden Warfare as a base. I never played those games, but he could work as a decent zoner with some brawling capabilities. As for the DLC, this is where things get interesting, because not only are some of these really ridiculous ideas, and there's also a bit of having to consider the next title in these franchises. The characters here are the Persona 6 protagonist, Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, Cuphead, this guy, and the next Fire Emblem game's protagonist. Persona 6's protagonist is a no-brainer. By the time Armada releases, Persona 6 should already be released. Raiden from Metal Gear Rising is a character I would kill to have. He's just so cool and just as popular as Snake, so why not add him? And these two, I'm just adding them because they're super well-known games even to this day. But yeah, that's my final Smash Armada roster. This was super fun to make. Now I know what you're all asking. Would Sakurai be working on this game? Honestly, I think that should be up to him. However, it should be noted that he has been working on Smash Bros. Ever since its inception. I understand I was making fun of this idea non-stop and making some of the dumbest possible ideas for the direction and its roster, but I also do want to make it clear that I'm making this production because I care for this franchise. Smash Bros. Has been a massive influence in my life. I love this franchise to death and I owe it so much for introducing me to so many great games. I don't think we'll ever have a game that can live up to the scale that Ultimate has become. Whatever the case is, all we can do is hope that the next Smash game is going to be a promising and beautiful beginning for a new era for the franchise. With that said, I think that's a good way to conclude this production. This was super fun to make, and there's so many things that I could have covered too, like what modes, story, and references Armada could have. If any of you guys want to see more productions of me speculating what the next Smash game could be, please let me know. And also comment what you think of this roster while you're at it. Now, if you excuse me, I have a tournament to attend. I may be using Bayonetta, but I can assure you I have her in Elite Smash. And as always, this is Akari from Mintjoy Pictures.